Welcome to Transforming with Us,
where we talk about
all things trans and queer.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in this week.
We are going to be talking about the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida that passed in the House today.
And by the way, everybody, if you don't recognize that voice, well, let me introduce you to my new co-host, Andrew Spicer. Hello, Andrew. Would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Hey, my name's Andrew. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'm here in Florida where today they just passed the Don't Say Gay bill, in the House.
Yeah.
So, we're only a few votes away from it getting to the top.
Yeah, it's kind of scary because when we were looking into the research of it a little bit, we found out all we need is 2 more votes, and once it gets 2 more votes, it goes straight to the governor, our lovely DeSantis, which we all know how he feels. So, most likely gonna pass. I'm not sure, Andrew, if you know much about history, but I learned first time today that it's very similar to something that happened back in the 90s called the No Promo Homo. Have you ever heard of that?
Never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Never heard of that one. Kind of brings me back to the Don't Ask, Don't Tell days as well. But no, never heard that one before. That was in the 90s?
Yeah, it was like an anti-LGBT I can't ever pronounce it. Curriculum laws. There we go. And it was like referred as the No Promo Homo laws, and they were approved by like various states that did the same thing. It's like it literally says that they prohibit or limit mentions of discussions of homosexuality and transgender identity in public schools.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That doesn't surprise me, though. That would explain why I grew up, not knowing what or feeling like something was wrong with me because it wasn't talked about. So I didn't. Who was I to say, hey, I'm feeling this way or that way? We weren't educated on it. It wasn't talked, which is why it's so important that these bills don't pass, because we need to educate the youth. We need to.
I 100% agree. It's kind of crazy because I remember hearing people be like, "Oh, if there's more gay stuff, people will turn out gay. If there's more trans stuff, people will turn out trans." I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing. I'm still trans.
Right. I didn't even know what being trans really was until I was 26 years old. So that kind of kills that whole theory.
I 100% agree with you. I know that they were worried, I think it was a week ago, about this bill being skyrocketed, and I know this isn't the first bill that's passed that's anti-LGBTQ friendly. I mean, even, last year we were talking about was the gender check law in Florida.
Yeah, which DeSantis was very nice to pass that on the very first day of Pride Month last year. Way to welcome the community together. But yeah, so with that bill that passed, it now allows schools to perform genital checks on students before they're allowed to play sports, pretty much to make sure that they're not trans.
Last time I checked, didn't Florida have a huge issue with pedophilia?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's going to make it worse. Just saying.
I feel like, these kids have to undergo physicals regardless to play a sport. You have to see a doctor. Those things are going to be disclosed. Why do you have to title a bill and directly attack a certain person?
I mean, I am right there with you. I don't get it. And I know Biden is sitting there saying, like, oh, you are loved and accepted just as you are. But this bill technically violates youth's freedom of speech, which is unconstitutional.
Right, their rights as a human.
Exactly. So if this is unconstitutional, technically, shouldn't Biden be stepping in? Like, he should have stepped in with the genital check. He should have stepped in with a lot of things, but we're not seeing that.
No. And we're hearing him say, like, oh, don't worry, we're going to get through it. This isn't going to happen. And then here it is, it's happening everywhere. Look what just happened in Texas yesterday. Mm-hmm. And like we talked about earlier too, there's 38 other states that are all in the process of doing the same exact thing. Mm-hmm. Where's the Biden that promised our safety and everything else? Because it's not happening. He's not doing anything to stop it.
And then last time I checked, if somebody commits suicide from bullying or something or person, doesn't that person become responsible, liable?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
So
big time. I mean, yes, 100%. Yes, that's murder in my book, and I'm pretty sure it's considered homicide because that person would probably still be here had you not told them to go do horrible things to themselves or say horrible things to them or take away their treatment and medications and life-saving things that they need in order to feel okay. And you're taking that all away from kids.
Yeah.
From kids.
Yeah.
These, not to mention just these kids that have already started and are part, could be years into their medical transitions, and now you're just going to cut them off. What does that do to the human body? What does that do to the mental health? You're about to start seeing a lot of bad things happen.
I know, and I think according to recent studies, they said that LGBTQ people are the highest at risk for unaliving and suicide, or whatever you want to call it, and I believe the number was around 47%. For an entire group, that's extremely high because all the other groups are subs and they're very smaller, and now we're going to see an increase. Because we're not going to be help. We're not going to have groups now. This is going to be an option for them to take away LGBTQ groups in high schools that save people's lives.
Right. The Gay Straight Alliance clubs and everything else. The safe place that the youth feels that they can go. They're getting bullied in school because of it, and they're getting bullied outside of school because of it. This is their safe place, and you're taking that away from them. And also, with the Don't Say Gay bill, it also states that teachers and things like that can now go to their parents and out them.
Yeah, which is extremely dangerous.
That's dangerous in itself. Some of these kids only come out in those safe places in school because that's where they feel safe, because they don't feel safe at home. And they don't feel like they're in an accepting environment. There's reasons why a child would not go to a parent and say, hey, listen, I'm feeling this way or that way. And now you're going to take that away from them too. You're going to out them. That what could possibly happen to that child when they go home that night.
I do know the one thing that I remember when they were talking about it's called the Stop Woke Act, which is allowing parents to sue schools for teaching like critical race theory as well. That's a part of this Don't Say Gay bill thing. And
yes,
if I'm not mistaken, let me just make sure if I'm not mistaken, but critical race theory is a cross-disciplinary like social movement, like civil rights stuff. So what they're talking about now is if a parent is uncomfortable that you're teaching about integration back in the 70s, then they can sue. That's the consensus. Right.
It makes no sense whatsoever. None of it does.
It's whitewashing. It's talking about like what's extremely important to us. Like if somebody doesn't want to learn, if a parent is a closeted Ku Klux Klan member or white supremacist, they can now sue a school. If this passes completely, they'll be able to sue a school for teaching about the Holocaust.
Right.
And that's going with this Don't Say Gay bill. Well, here's the flip side, which I remember telling you about. Well, we can't say anything about sexual preferences, we can't talk about gender, and we can't talk about orientation, which means that I think we should no longer talk about heterosexuality, and we shouldn't talk about cisgender stuff either. We shouldn't teach any of it. Home ec needs to go out now. You know why? Because they talk about taking care of your husband. That's very heteronormative.
Right. Or the wife does the cooking, or all that stuff should just be out the door.
I agree. And then they have classes that teach you how to be like a preschool teacher and stuff like that. Nope, that needs to be out of the system too. Even though that helps provide jobs, that's technically talking about gender, and it's technically talking about sexuality and roles in life and stuff like that too. So that should be removed. And people don't understand that this can actually work both ways. If you utilize it correctly, we can probably use this against them. And that's it violates the Freedom of Speech Amendment. It violates the Freedom of Speech Amendment, and with that, because if it goes through for the governor and becomes legal in June, parents can technically sue based on its constitutional rights being destroyed.
Right.
Which
but you're.
I know I'm all.
It's so contradicting and so just like, oh, I don't even know who thinks of these bills. Honestly, it baffles me. It's like you're.
I am not sure.
Definitely not a time to be in a lot of states right now. There's very few states that are not trying to jump on these bandwagons. And the message that I've made some TikTok drafts and stuff that I'm going to be posting later and everything. But it's very important that, like, so the first thought that crossed my mind hearing about the Don't Say Gay bill and stuff is like, wow, Florida's really getting bad. We did this bill last year. Now we've got this bill in the works. I need to get the heck out of here and back to a place like Massachusetts that is a lot safer for people in the community. And then it crossed my head. It's like, well, no, because then I'm running and then I'm giving them what they want. I need to stand up and I need to be more of a voice. And I'm not going to leave and run just because you want to try and take away kids' rights or my rights to treatment or this 16-year-old's right to treatment. No, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to make sure that I do everything in my power to take it down in an opposite direction.
Yeah, no, and I 100% agree with you. That's exactly the way you want to do it. I think that we need more organizations. We need more people fighting this up. And yeah, it's scary. There's been backlashes. I mean, you can even look at our history. If you want to talk about that, I'll talk about our history. Look at Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was killed.
Yep.
One of the very, I think it was the first male politician that was out. I know there was a couple politicians out, but he was very prominent and stuff like that. So, like, to me, that's extremely scary because that is an option that people want to take from us because they don't. What people don't also realize is that we have this crazy thing that's out there right now, and a lot of states have it, and it's the trans and gay defense that you can use if you kill somebody, and it's legal. Yeah, it's legal.
What?
Yes.
That is not something I knew about.
Yes, that is. The trans defense, I think it's called. And they also have it, and they also have the gay defense for murder. It's called the LGBTQ panic defense. And a few places still have it. Here's a map of it, too. It's, let me see. I believe Florida still has it. Yeah, Florida has not banned that. Florida is one of the ones. Georgia has not banned it. A lot of places. So California, Colorado, Connecticut, District of Columbia have it banned. Illinois has it banned. Maryland, Maine has it banned. Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Oregon has it banned. Rhode Island has it banned. Vermont, Virginia, and Washington have it banned. And that's less than 20 states. The rest of the states, you can use that gay panic defense law.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. To say, oh, I found out they were gay and I panicked and I killed
them. I freaked out and just killed.
Yep, and you can get away with murder. And I mean, there's a lot of places fighting that and stuff like that. And it's kind of extremely irritable. And I think now more than ever, we really need support. And I know there's only so many places for support. And I think I think it's called Outcast.com. I can put a link to it. They have like a part where it has all the Florida LGBTQ organizations where people can go to. I know I'm rambling a lot to get help, but I think it's definitely something people, and I can put that, of course, in the show notes. But it's scary because people do kill us. I mean, I remember when Pulse opened up. I used to go there. I went there on opening night. I lost that place. That's why I left Florida.
Yep. And Florida, I think too, last year, if I remember correctly, Florida last year, I think, was one of the leading states in trans murders. Specifically catered to trans women of color. But 28, like, that's ridiculous. Insane.
I think we have
and like you said, to have that kind of law in place that protects people. Oh, well, I found out this, or I found out that, so I freaked out. It would be like me or you going to a urinal and using an STP and having a cisgendered man see that something might look different and kill us outside a bathroom.
Yep. Yeah, that's exciting too. And I remember the first time I heard that we increased the number of deaths. So like in 2020 it was like 44 people.
Yeah.
Transgender people died, and that's high. Last year we almost got to 400. We were at 375. And that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. And that's what we know of. What's what we know of?
Right.
Because a lot of people will dead name them.
Right.
Or not even try. Some people won't even count Puerto Rico, which had several murders of trans men of color, and that was a thing there too. Like and Florida is one of the worst places. I don't know what it is about Gainesville and Jacksonville area. There's some issues over there with their. Come on, get it together. We got to protect the people of color, protect our trans people of color, protect our queer people of color. We just
right.
Right. I don't even know. It just
and then a lot of people too. They'll say, "Oh, almost 400 or 400." That's not such a big number when there's billions of people in the world. But when you take that billions of people in the world, and then you just put off the percentage that are trans, 400 is a very high number because our population isn't as big as what people think it is. It's not what they tell themselves. In the future, maybe, now that we've kind of started to pave a way or have tried to pave a way for today's youth to feel comfortable enough in their own skin to come out and be who they are, what they are, go by what pronouns they want to, choose their names if they don't like their given names, things like that. And it's all being reverted. All the hard work that has been done is just being completely crushed at this point.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, the last time I checked, it was like 0.3 of the U.S. population didn't identify with their original gender. That's not a lot, people. 0.3.
You're talking about 400 people out of maybe like let's say 100,000. That's a huge number.
Yeah. If I look it up, let's see. They give people a comparison real quick. If I look it up and say how many percent of people are female in the United States, right? We're looking at AFAB people in general in the United States alone at over 50%.
Oh, wow.
Over 50%.
That I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, 50.8 is females, and 76.3 of them are white. So that's a lot of people. I mean, if 0.3 is nothing. That's not a lot, people. Like, you gotta really think about that. That's really not a lot, and most of that is from 18 to I think 65.
More than likely, when you start to fill out the census.
Yeah, I'm not going. Then that's the people who filled out the census. I mean, you don't have they don't sit there
that's not counting the however many that didn't.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's kind of interesting to think of it that way because you have 49 point something percent is male, most of it white male, of course, being about 83% I think last time I checked, and then you're 0.3. So
out of a scale that big.
Yeah, that's a problem, people. That's a huge problem.
Even if you divide it in half, you're talking about 0. or even half of that. Just splitting that 50-50 male-female that don't identify with their gender that they're born with. And now that number is even smaller.
Yep, and we are already starting on deaths already. I mean, there was a trans woman of color recently, and even in just the LGBTQ community in general. I mean, there was a reporter, an activist, what I told you about earlier today, that was mutilated. He was beheaded and castrated by his own family member for being queer. I mean, that's, and the police aren't going to investigate it. They're not going to do anything about it. And he was rolled up in a rug and put in a garbage can. That's what people think of us. And we're human. That's the point of this whole thing is we're human. I grew up. I had a parent. Well, I had a dad. I had a parent. I had struggles. I eat. I sleep. I go to the bathroom. It's come on. I love,
I work. I wake up every day. I go to work. I pay my bills. I'm a normal, or I say normal in quotations because what is normal really? But
right.
but like as normal as you could define. I wake up. I go to work. I come home. I pay my bills. I eat my dinner. I walk my dog. I feed my dog. Like I'm no different than the cisgendered husband, boyfriend, whoever that lives next door.
Yep.
I take my garbage out to the same sidewalk.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. I guess it just kind of messes me. And it's funny that I'm a sucker for history, so I know that normal comes from like the Latin word norma, which means carpenter square. So I'm like, originally, guys, it's like a math term. I'm just like telling you.
See, you learn something new every day.
I know. There's me. I'm the little bit of a nerd, but because it's just bad that some people like want to conform. Like I look decently normal-ish, if you want to call it. I look like the next Joe Schmo next door. So why am I being targeted? Why are people like me being targeted? Like why are black trans women being targeted? Why is that a thing? Like that's ridiculous. They already have problems as is. Like we're already
they already have their own issues to deal with.
Exactly.
They got enough hate thrown at them already. You throw trans into the mix, and that's just that's just the whole icing on the cake.
I know, it's extremely disheartening, and it breaks me every single day to know that we're losing people in our community. It's because to me it doesn't matter what color you are. We are still in a community. Do I want to value your culture? Yes. Do I want to embrace where you come from? Yes. Do I want to learn the history so we don't have to repeat ourselves? Yes, because it's not. Gay people and trans people are not the next thing to fight against. Like, we've been there. We've done that.
Right. That's in the past.
Yeah. It seems like they're trying to put it in the future. Unfortunately, I do see this bill going into other states.
I foresee it going, especially like we discussed earlier as well. The South.
Yep.
The
Midwest and South
has a lot to worry about. Along with other, more red states. That's where you're really going to see it happening first. I'm more than sure that there's going to be blue states that follow, but you're going to see it happen a lot in the red.
Yeah, I think that if we do it the right way, we can really understand how to fix this accordingly. But the thing that scares me is if you look at any map in the world, it says like what are the red states and conservative states, which more conservative than others, highly conservative. Have Florida is considered actually an average state, but it depends on who's in power. And that's what makes it conservative. But but the people who actually vote, believe it or not, are pretty mixed about it. So it's kind of hilarious. And the same things for like places like Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. But then you have like, let's see, hold on. I got, let me count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 states that are extremely conservative, right? And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 states that are more conservative than average, which is Texas being one. And if Texas is a more conservative but not completely conservative state, then you have a problem, which puts over half the U.S. And then you only have maybe a handful of them that are in between. And then the majority of the Northeast, that's blue. And then Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, and California are blue, and that's about it. It's like we're dividing in ways that we shouldn't be dividing. You're supposed to be a country united together. I had that discussion with somebody at work today, actually. We're supposed to call ourselves the United States. We're supposed to be united. And I can recall a time when I was younger seeing the United States, at a united standpoint and being like, okay, this is great. And as I got older, I've done nothing but see it deteriorate and divide and divide and divide. And we are definitely not, a nation standing together right now. We're ripping each other apart. Yeah, no, I remember being a kid, and I grew up with things like Living Color. I grew up with the Proud Family and all that stuff, like 90s and early 2000s, and it was very diverse. Like what is it? What was that? Sorry, what that? It's really funny. This really funny Spanish comedian. He had his own family show too. Oh my God, the Lopez thing. George Lopez. George Lopez. I think it was George. I think it was George Lopez.
Yes.
Like, I grew up with things like that, like extremely diverse stuff, and people were more together, and, you know, you had people who, like, you were listening to musicians of all different colors and creeds. I mean, you had Shakira, you had Tupac, you had Lauryn Hill, you had Eminem, and you had all these people just coming together.
Mary J. Blige,
oh my God.
Dr.
Let
Dre.
me talk about that halftime show. I can get about that. Oh, I need that concert. But,
Yes.
But yes, we grew up with that. Like J-Lo, Jenny from the Block, you know, we had so much diversity. And it wasn't separated, it was celebrated. Were we perfect? No. But for some ungodly reason, now we're going backwards? What the hell? Like
and it's more than 10 steps back. We've taken thousands of steps back.
Yeah.
And it's going to take so long to try and get through it. And, you know, that's the main message that everybody in the community, the whole community, needs to be spreading around and really standing behind is we're not going to back down. We're not going to go run and hide. We're not going to be scared. And we're going to fight for these kids. And, you know, we're not going to let it happen. We just can't.
Yeah, and I agree. We have to fight for this. So anybody, if you're listening, please protect your kids. This isn't right. You know, it really isn't.
No, like you said, it's pedophilia down here. That's what I would call it in my book. And, you know, what Texas is doing is just asinine and taking away life-saving medical treatment from kids,
and then getting their parents in trouble so they could possibly lose their kids. Their kids could go into foster care, never come back with their parents, and then go into abuse.
Yeah, they can be prosecuted for abuse and neglect.
Yep. And then those kids can be raised in a foster home where somebody, I don't know, wants to abuse them, which is extremely common, unfortunately, in foster homes because nobody vets them in Texas or Florida.
So I know people in my life that, you know, they're addicts and they have their kids, and I've called and tried to have things done, and nothing happens. It's nothing. But now you're saying that if a parent is showing that kind of acceptance and love to their child, that you're going to prosecute them for that. There's kids out there that don't eat. There's kids out there that get beat up on a daily basis by their parents. There's so many other things that governments should be worried about than whether or not there's a 16 or 17-year-old receiving hormone replacement therapy to, you know, not want to wake up every day and unalive themselves, because I know that I had hit that point for a while.
Yeah, I had that point too. I mean, you and I both carry scars, and we've survived it. We had to. And the scary thing is, too, is, like, I don't know if anybody realizes this or pays attention to this, but DeSantis wants to run for presidency.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So imagine this man who runs away when a crisis happens, number one, spends money on frivolous things, not actually helping people, destroying the environment, which, guys, I don't care about your profit, because in 50 years, we're not going to have a lot of icebergs, and Florida's going to be mostly underwater, so come on, like, this is a thing. Taking away, like, bills that would prohibit talking about things like polls happening. That's history. Or talking about integration. That's history. And you want to put him in presidency.
Right.
Like, you got to think about that.
What happened at Pulse is just as important as Stonewall. Like, this is all stuff that needs to be talked about. You know, it's history. It doesn't get any more simpler than that. It's history. We're always going to talk about the Vietnam War. Yeah. We're always going to talk about Desert Storm. We're always going to talk about, you know...
World War II.
the World War II, when the redcoats first came trampling through Boston, and we're always the Boston Tea Party. That's that's like saying we're not going to talk about these other things that have happened.
Yeah, exactly. And
who knows how many trans people were involved in that stuff? They just didn't tell you.
Yeah, or queer people. We've been around forever. We're in other species. Like, literally, queer people are in other species.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
So I actually looked this up, and I was, the national survey from the Trevor Project said that 42% of LGBTQ youth actually seriously considered attempting suicide last year.
What's the percentage?
42.
That's awful.
Yeah. And half of them are transgender, non-binary, were the youths that were considered. It was actually half of that is transgender and non-binary. So you're
right.
So now what? You're gonna? How are we trying to?
And I'm not trying to downplay the adults that still go through it too, because
this is not talking about adults.
It's the kids that these bills are attacking the kids to block the way for the future. Of course, adult lives are just as important, but when you bring the kids into it, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and here's the funny part too. Funny not ha. I remember how last year the highest rate of anti-LGBT laws at 139, right?
Right.
We've been 2 months, and this year we're already at 170. Yeah. And 92 of those bills target trans people.
Yep.
Target trans people alone, and they're already starting to pass. 92 of those bills. That's literally over half.
Right. Target specific.
Target Pacific.
I'm going to need to sit down and look up all these different bills too.
I know.
Because
it's insane.
How many of them are going to target people like you and me of our age?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to lose our right to get our medical necessities? Are we going to be able to get our hormones? Are we going to be able to see our doctors anymore? Gender therapists, what's it going to do for them? Are they even going to be allowed to treat the youth or even us? I know I still go to gender therapy on and off when feeling certain ways. It could healthcare. Our health insurance company is going to be allowed to.
Yeah, all of that. Facial reconstructions are considered part of that one Texas bill too. Everything. Well, mind you, most surgeons will not operate on somebody under 18.
Right.
Hormone blockers are okay for somebody who's transgender.
I'm all for hormone blockers. I support hormone blockers.
And now they can't do that. So you're going to force a trans man to go, or trans boy to go through puberty in a way that can really destroy them, that would make them unalive themselves. Because why? Because you think you need to be a Christian nation?
If I had the option to take blockers, it probably would. I'd probably have a lot less scars.
Yep.
Because going through puberty,
the worst.
So, especially when it doesn't match how you feel, and you're at this internal battle with yourself, and you know it's wrong, and why is it happening to you anyways? Not to mention, we won't even get having to go through it the second time around.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I'm 1 year in.
but to go through, I remember how traumatized I was. Oh my God, I don't ever want to get my period. I don't ever want to get it like that. Please, dear God, do not let that happen to me. That's not supposed to happen to me. This isn't me. And then the awful day when that came, and just wanting to, I cried. Going through puberty that is not meant for you is the worst.
Exactly. And I know Biden's oh, well, we'll fight for protection and safety. What you doing? What you doing?
Right, I get, and that's why. So when he was being broadcast earlier today, I was kind of that person in the audience, just bringing outside stuff in that had nothing to do with what he was saying about Ukraine. And I understand that this is a very situation over there with Ukraine and Russia right now. And definitely my thoughts and prayers go out to Ukraine.
Same.
But I kept on commenting in the thread, why are we not addressing what's happening to trans kids right now? Why is this only the sole focus? There's so much more going on in the world than just this. I get that this is important, but so is here. And what are you going to do to stop Abbott from doing this to these kids? What are you going to do from DeSantis to stop doing it to these kids, or any other states that are about to move these other bills forward? What are you doing to protect us, like you said?
Exactly.
You're talking all about this, and I'm going to do this with Russia and that with Russia, but what about focusing on your home here too?
Yeah, I 100% agree. You're going to lose a lot of people already, so it's like, why are we doing this? It's ridiculous. I mean, I could honestly talk about this stuff all night, and it frustrates me because, like, I don't really 100% trust Biden, and probably because he's like, oh, I'm going to help reduce some of your student debt, but I was like, where's this coming from? Because I know Biden pretty well, and Biden has always been the person that always wants people to pay their student loans, so, like, him talking about that lie kind of pissed me off, and I knew it was going to be a lie, and it's still a lie, so I don't believe that he's going to help us. I think we have to help us. And that's really at this point what it needs to be. We need to be marching outside of, the Governor DeSantos's, house. We need to do all that stuff. We need to vote. We need to put our voice out there. We need to help kids, everything of that nature. So, I mean, I know that it's not much, but what I can do is at least put the Outpost.com Florida LGBT organizations in our show notes, like I said earlier, to make sure that, you have some options. So no matter where you are, you can do that. If you need to talk to anybody, you want to reach out to us, you can too.
Absolutely.
But Andrew, do you have anything more to say before we wrap this up? Because I'm probably rambling at this point.
We could go on and on about this all night. I know we could, because we both have the same very strong opinions about everything right now. So it could turn it. People might fall asleep.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. But again, check in the show notes. We'll leave out some information in there, and you're always more free to message us on Instagram or Facebook.
Thank you for listening to Transforming with Us. You can like, follow, and share on all major platforms to keep up with all things trans and queer.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.